With the help of the new Gigapresses in Germany and in Austin, it's our belief that there's a good possibility that Tesla will double production by October of this year. Is our story for today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks for joining us once again. And for our musical intro, instead of recording it, Ode to Joy from Beethoven. Thanks for joining us once again. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters as well as our subscribers. If you enjoy the show, please take time to like and subscribe. So we also wanted to remind you that this is a copyrighted broadcast. Without permission, you're not allowed to reproduce anything said on this show, and we'd like for you to keep your show, we'll keep ours, and not have any drama in this regard. So I wanted to do a follow-up 2.0 show on the fact that both Germany and Austin have started their production activities. Now, when I initially started talking about what's going on in both production spaces, I was focused on the fact that, you know, it's going to take time to build an employee relationship with the new equipment and be able to start any meaningful production. And so I thought that we were generally on top of what's been going on here, but we've learned with the help of a number of our viewers that, in fact, there are two of the Gigapresses already operational and producing well in Fremont. Same thing in China. The Chinese Gigapresses are made by the parent company of Idra, and they're actually same machine, but they're banging out thousands of cars in the new process that's been developed with the help of this new equipment. So what then happened was, after I saw this, I was like, whoa, this is very interesting. I really think that how these pieces of equipment are working are actually one of the reasons why Tesla was so easily able to generate bigger numbers than expected. So one thing I do expect to happen in the next couple of weeks, month, is a number of analysts are going to have to change their per square foot measures for the productive capacity of the company, therefore adding a reason why the stock price should rise. Now, the numbers that we read indicated that the Gigapresses are capable of about 1,000 castings a day. So if you've got two machines, and in theory you're doing the front and rear separately of the Model Ys, in theory then we're looking at about 1,000 vehicles a day times, let's call it 30 days a month, or maybe 35,000 vehicles per month. And then we'd have to look also at what's happening in Germany. Same deal, total of 60,000 vehicles a month there. And the other thing to note is, definitely in the case of Austin, it's double the size of Fremont, especially because the battery plant is actually in the same location. But Germany actually has the same setup. So what this is implying is the fact that sometime in October or November, Tesla will have global production capacity that's basically double what they currently have been producing, driven by the new factories, new equipment that's been put in place, and improved processes relative. Now, again, the biggest thing about this show that's different than the other shows we've been doing is just the fact that, or we've done this week, is just the fact that it's one thing to start a relationship with new equipment like Idra's Gigapresses. It's another thing to have them in production regularly in two locations already, and you can bring the manpower that's been operating that equipment successfully into your facilities in Germany and Austin, and it's a fairly smooth process. The other thing we were told is that what's happening right now, and I guess started middle of last month, is that the training of workers. So perhaps 20,000 people will be hired and need to be trained in the Austin facility, and similar numbers hired and trained in Germany to get this whole thing working. So as a result, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and I hope you will as well. The theory is that we're going to have perhaps a doubling of production. And the question that comes up then is, if we double production, what does that do to profit and revenue? And I think you see where this is going. So I was having a debate about best case and worst case for Tesla for this year with a Tesla coworker friend, and his point was 950,000 is a no-brainer for the year. And my argument is something in that 1.2 to 1.4 million vehicles this year is highly likely. So the driver that we're expecting for the stock to move nicely in the next few months is exactly this: the fact that once everyone sees the productive capacity that this is capable of, we're going to see some amazing things happen. One of the things that started happening with Tesla is prior to the Gigapress arriving, Elon would do very rapid fire images or sort of brief videos that are posted on YouTube that showed how the production environment was working. But when you're removing 300 robots from a 1,000 robot line, that's a quarter of the robots that are gone. And now that space obviously could be used for other things. But what this is suggesting is that it's a radical change in process for Tesla, and the result is more efficiency and therefore more vehicles coming through and more profit. So the riddle that I'm seeing, and I can kind of get the feeling of what we've been hearing from certain Tesla employees, is, well, what's going to happen here? There's always a lot of negative stories about Elon and Tesla and what it can't do, but I really think that we're now in a very interesting position called, what if Tesla actually executes as it's planned and described? One of the comments I heard as a data point to consider is that unlike other auto companies that are slowing down because of chip shortages, it's a 24/7 extra overtime hours everywhere for Tesla currently. And there is the demand for those vehicles to sort of maintain this productive process. So overall, what does all this mean? Number one, we definitely smashed the numbers that were expected to come out. Number two, and more importantly than smashing the number, is there enough demand to consume all the vehicles that Tesla is capable of? And it's our understanding that absolutely the orders are there to fill the pipeline. In fact, one of the big discussions yesterday was, is Tesla in trouble because Chinese production has dropped or deliveries have dropped? And one of the issues that's going on in China is that Korea now has a $17,000 per vehicle EV credit. And that has resulted in a lot more buying. And it's my belief that even though you have Kia and Hyundai producing vehicles there that are electric, that Tesla is actually leading that market. And now we have this incentive pushing numbers higher that's sort of sitting on the table. So as a result, we now have the problem of falling Chinese deliveries because China's production is designed to handle all of Southeast Asia. And the problem that's happened is demand is so high that Fremont is now having to ship cars to Korea when China was sort of set up to do that. And so I think the external numbers cannot look good, but the internal reality could actually be way better than expected. So I'd have to say the big sort of payback or question is Elon finally gave us some sense in the last earnings announcement of what's going to happen when it comes to demand for power products, et cetera. He really didn't go into what vehicle demand was, but it's kind of interesting to watch that he's, their people are grossly overworked right now because the demand for product is so heavy across the globe that they're needing to build extra factories. One of the reasons Tesla stock price is sort of discounted and lower is it's unknown what the new competition might mean to the ability of Tesla to sell vehicles. But what's implied by how the production is going at Tesla is that there's plenty of demand, there's plenty of growth driven by the fact that the percentage of cars that are moving to electric is increasing, and Tesla's maintaining a lead on that increasing market share. So I would say that if you're an investor, and particularly I'd recommend maybe some leaps or buying the stock, this is it. I really think that the next growth for Tesla will be the opening of these factories as you see those cars coming out. And then what's going to happen actually is we're actually going to see a situation where once those factories are completed, we sort of have a pause on new facilities opening or being built. And so the question is, how many vehicles can we get out of those facilities? And I think the answer is way more than expected because of the throughput you could get once you employ things like the current number 2 per facility for the Gigapress. But some of the stuff I read suggested the counts could go up to 8 of these machines. So without increasing factory count or footprint, in theory, you could generate 4 times the vehicles from the same floor footprint at different spots around the world. And so I think this sort of suggests that, there's going to be some very big things coming from Tesla over the next few months. And I really think that, yes, there's been a keep Tesla down sort of planning going on from CNBC and some of the other press. But I'd have to say that, whoa, this is awesome to see. Just a reminder, please take time to like and subscribe if you would. Patreon is there as well if you'd like to get more information to help you with your daily and weekly trading. We do everyday shows to assist. We also will move on next to our health tips. I wanted to warn you that for our show, all of our Tesla sort of discussion happens to a certain part of the show, which we're ending now. And then it's sort of my playpen to address issues I think might be of interest to some of our viewers. And that's why we added our health tips. So if you're a medical professional and there are health tips that you'd recommend our viewers consider, please include that in the notes at the end of the show. If you don't want health tips, just don't watch. That way you won't even have to think about what's discussed. So I'm really emphasizing core training here because I've been working on everyday stretches and core training exercises. We'll link some of the people on YouTube that I've been watching, but wanted to highly recommend it because it's been terrific in terms of back pain and comfort. Also wanted to encourage you as a reminder to get out into nature a bit. It's called forest bathing, evidently a term developed in Japan, but it's great. And I can't recommend it enough. Highly recommend you consider it. Now, I'm actually developing a channel related to Brompton. What happened is there's a bicycle called the Brompton, and I'm going to bring one to our next show so you can take a look. About 20 years ago, I started riding Brompton for a number of reasons. Primarily, I went to Stanford. I was working in the Stanford area, and the parking 20 years ago was a 1-year permit for $100. Now it costs $40 a day to park at Stanford University. So the problem is that's a really big number, and the reason they did that was to retain campus central facilities for buildings and research. And people are being asked to use public transport to get into the university. And I think this is happening in a lot of places around the world. And so as a result, I got this bike, and 20 years ago, it wasn't that big a deal. There weren't that many of them out there. And my thought was, it's kind of expensive and it's an excellent bike. But I actually thought the company was going to go out of business because the bikes are expensive. And I expected a lot of consumers would say, it is the Mercedes of the craft, but the price point is too high. And so I thought it'd be copied by the foreign companies and just replicated in large mass. And then you'd end up with the company having difficulties. The reality is last year they tripled sales. So the whole COVID thing, people biking to the work instead of public transport, this whole transition has occurred. And so I have some really good friends on here who've done very well with Tesla stock. And I want to offer you a dare today. The dare is, I dare you to get a Brompton and put it in your trunk of your car and start doing short bike rides on it if you can, once or twice, 3 times a week. And I think you'll be very happy with it. But the dare is, if you get one and don't like it, I will assist you in selling it, because the value of my Brompton over 20 years has more than doubled, in fact, tripled. So if you do get one, not happy with it, I'm blown away by the fact that they are somewhat short on supply right now. And if you get one and are not happy, I can assist you with your eBay exit. But I think you'll be really impressed with the quality and how well thought out it is. And I can't say enough that I'm extremely happy with it. And if you do get one, I don't have an electric version, but if you are planning to commute with it, I recommend you pay up the extra dollars for the electric version, because obviously it's more weight, but you don't have to pedal if you don't feel like it, and you can go longer distances faster. So those are my thoughts on that. But that channel goal would be to give people ideas on things to consider, tips and tricks. There's a lot of additions you can do to the bike to make it a better experience when you're riding. So those are the type of things we're going to cover in that show. At any rate, we have more health tips that are located below. Please support the channel. If you don't want to do Patreon, etc., we do have PayPal information below that you can support the channel with. And I also wanted to know, for all of you who have supported the channel, we really appreciate your doing so. At any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss German, au revoir French, Lahit Road Hebrew, Hoda Hafez Farsi, Zdravstvuyte Russian, Ni Hao Ma Chinese, Konbanwa Japanese, Salam, Namaste Hindi, Hey Do Swedish, good day our friends from Australia. And in Jamaica we say, Nuff respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.